Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Luke Snyder, joined by our forecaster, Filippo Formica. Now, Filippo, we've been seeing a bit of a sliver of spring across much of the Commonwealth this past week. Can we expect to see that to continue into the rest of the forecast period?
Absolutely, Luke. It was a warm week this past week. I think we'll be closer to average throughout the weekend and into early next week, but we do have much clearer skies to contend with.
All right, thank you so much for that, Filippo. We'll be hearing that in just a few moments, but up first, we do have a couple nature in the news.
The beauty of destruction was seen at a safe distance on the big island of Hawaii starting around 6:30 local time on Tuesday as Mount Kilauea began to erupt. Lava fountains of 20 to 30 feet were observed at the beginning of the eruption, increasing to approximately 100 feet just 20 minutes later. During the peak of the eruption, lava fountains reached a maximum of 600 feet and were described as towers of gold by Epic Lava tour operator John D. Tarson. These lava fountains are part of an active eruption period that began in late December of last year.
Areas downwind of the Great Lakes have gotten a complete winter makeover this season, with some cities reporting over 100 inches of above average snowfall. Despite the more southerly storm track this winter, most shorelines from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to western New York are experiencing an above average snowfall season. Off Lake Ontario, numerous cities have snowfall totals 10 feet above average, with cities east of Lake Erie running 5 to 10 feet above average. This is due to more frequent Arctic air outbreaks across the northeastern United States. In addition, winds off the Great Lakes have been more prominent this winter season due to high pressure levels causing winds to blow from the northwest. Though we've finally seen the first glimmer of spring, more snow is soon to come this weekend.
Drought-busting rainfall struck the Central Florida Peninsula and the Florida Keys on Monday, with flooding being reported across Key West. The National Weather Service Weather Forecast Office in Key West recorded 6.62 inches of rainfall during a 24-hour span, which is now the second wettest day on record for the observing site. Much of Central Florida also recorded over an inch of rainfall during the event. This rainfall was much needed as much of the region is currently experiencing moderate to severe drought. Mother Nature will help relief efforts as high pressure and fair conditions return for the weekend.
South Dakota experienced its first ever February tornado on Monday, with conditions to perplex even the most seasoned storm chasers. For starters, surface temperatures were only in the 40s for Watertown, much cooler than typical conditions for tornado formation. Ahead of the tornado forming, an upper air disturbance was moving southeast across the plains, identified by frigid air aloft. This cold air mass allowed for small areas of surface air to become weakly buoyant and rise, creating a few weak thunderstorms. It wasn't the thunderstorms that caused the tornado, but rather vorticity. Better explained as spinning within the atmosphere, high amounts of vorticity were observed near the surface. This allowed much of the moving air to elongate up into the atmosphere and therefore create a tornado. Despite its unique shape, this short-lived tornado was later documented by the National Weather Service.
We had some warmer temps this past week across the Commonwealth, but a few drops to dodge. We have one more system on the way before we can clear those skies and have some fairer conditions, although the cold will be back. Here's our Friday surface map. A low pressure system moving through the UP of Michigan, bringing snow across the lower peninsula and into Ontario. We could see some flakes fly in northwestern Pennsylvania as we head throughout the day on Friday. Otherwise, cloudy skies moving in from northwest to southeast. Will be a mild day in southeastern Pennsylvania, where areas could touch into the 50s before all is said and done. Sunny skies across the Ohio River Valley going to be the best conditions throughout our Friday here in Northeast. We have our system continuing to move through on Saturday, but some big cold behind it, some lingering snow showers in northern Pennsylvania, and some light rain showers, especially in northeast Pennsylvania throughout the day on Saturday as this cold front continues to move through, and a strong one at that. Saturday night here in State College going to be in the teens. And that big cold is going to stick around for our Sunday. Clearer skies to the south and east in Pennsylvania, and we'll see some cloudier skies in northwestern Pennsylvania as some lake effect cloud cover is going to be moving through the region. We do have our high pressure system located in Indiana, and that high pressure system being off to our west is going to keep that Canadian Arctic air locked in throughout the Commonwealth on Sunday. So let's break down this forecast starting on Friday here in State College. Those clouds will be increasing ahead of our system for this weekend with a high of 42 degrees. As we head overnight, we will see some rain showers in the region, a low of 38 degrees, which is just below our average high for this time of year. But we will be seeing a few drops Friday night, but those will be clearing out Saturday morning as that low pressure system skirts off to our north, and we'll be seeing very gusty conditions as the day progresses on Saturday as that Arctic air makes its way in. 43 degrees our high. Saturday night, 16 degrees, a return to that brutal cold that we've experiencing a lot over the past few months. And as we head throughout Sunday, going to be chilly, but a few clouds in the sky. The best day of the weekend will be Sunday. We'll be back in a moment with a feature on AI forecasting.
When you hear AI, you might think of ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Meta's Llama 3, or even your Snapchat AI friend. But what does AI have to do with forecasting the weather? One research professor at the Department of Meteorology at Penn State is exploring new ideas to use AI in forecasting the weather.
Computers are essential for weather forecasting. We learned about 100 years ago how to take the laws of physics and write them in terms of math equations.
This concept was first idealized by Lewis Fry Richardson, an English mathematician and physicist. Richardson was the first person to use mathematical equations to try predicting the weather in the early 1900s. Before then, meteorologists relied on a method called analog forecasting, which involved identifying similar weather conditions from the past and projecting them forward. Richardson's work took him over 6 weeks to manually compute a forecast that was just 6 hours ahead, using complex math equations.
But in order to solve those math equations fast enough that we can get a weather forecast, we need to use computers. And we've used some of the fastest computers in the world for weather prediction over about the past 70 years ago to help weather forecasting.
Now, researchers are applying these foundational techniques to newer technologies.
But more recently, AI has been used to simulate the entire numerical weather prediction model output, meaning that AI is used to simulate going directly from the initial conditions to a forecast, almost replacing the numerical weather prediction model with physics, through instead learning that physics from historical examples.
So what does AI do that is different from computer models that we use right now? It does not solve complex math equations, but goes back to analog forecasting.
Yes, in supervised learning, a computer looks at past inputs, for example, satellite images, and past outputs, for example, whether that became a thunderstorm or not, and learns to identify which of those images map to those outputs, whether yes thunderstorm or no thunderstorm. Similar to how you might have an algorithm look at a photo and identify whether it contains a cat or a dog.
Graybush recently received a grant from the National Science Foundation to advance research on AI in numerical weather prediction. His focus? Training AI to recognize and understand clouds.
So we, in recent times, have developed an AI system that looks at satellite images of clouds and determines which of those clouds might develop into a thunderstorm. So the NSF grant is to further develop this type of technology, to use additional input data sets, perhaps also from models, as well as refine methodologies to create more accurate forecasts, to quantify the uncertainty of those forecasts, as well as to look at why the algorithm is making the choices that it does and to try to explain the AI.
Graybush also researches weather on Mars. Despite the red planet being more than 140 million miles from the Earth, its weather shares some surprising similarities with ours.
Right, so in some ways you have some commonalities. Mars and Earth both have seasons. They both have traveling weather systems, so you have highs and lows, cold fronts on Mars and Earth. Some major differences is Mars has a very thin atmosphere, and there's a very strong day-to-night contrast in temperature. as well as Mars has, as you mentioned, has these dust storms that some of them are regional dust storms that last for a few days.
Oh, wow.
Others are global dust storms that can actually last for weeks to months and cover the entire planet in a layer of dust.
Interestingly, we gather weather data from Mars using techniques similar to those used on Earth.
So satellites from space provide us a global view, as well as some in situ information from our rovers and landers on the surface of Mars.
While the AI boom hasn't yet reached Mars, Graybush suggests that one day we might apply our Earth-based AI research to Martian weather.
Machine learning might be applied to the Mars weather in the future. One area that could be interesting is interpreting Mars satellite data and getting a better sense of understanding and measuring dust storms from the satellite imagery, and perhaps using that for prediction.
With advancements like these, AI is poised to revolutionize meteorology, offering more accurate and timely weather forecasts. As researchers in the Department of Meteorology and Atmospheric Science here at Penn State continue to push the boundaries of what's possible, we may not only enhance our understanding of the Earth's weather, but also unlock the secrets of weather patterns on other planets. For Whether or Not, I'm student meteorologist Daniel Weaver.
Some spring-like temps are on their way back during this extended forecast, but let's take a look at our weekend recap first. Friday, our clouds will be increasing ahead of that system that we have for this weekend. A high of 42 with that system rolling in Friday night with a low of 38 and those light rain showers throughout the overnight. But as we head into Saturday, we'll become gusty as that Arctic air mass from Canada works its way in. Our high of 43, just over our average for this time of year, but it will be dropping down low. 16 degrees our low temperature Saturday night, and as we head into Sunday, that return to cold with our temperatures about 10 degrees below average for this time of year. High of 30 degrees and a low, again, brutal at 14 degrees. And let's take a look at our next week forecast where we have a bit of a stairway to spring throughout the next week. Monday going to be the lowest high temperature of the week. 38 degrees our high and those sunny skies continuing to persist. But as we make our way towards the middle of the week, the temperatures will be on the rise, but the clouds will also be building. Tuesday, mostly cloudy skies with temperatures right around 45 degrees across much of central Pennsylvania. But as we get into Wednesday, some heavy rain and potentially over an inch of rain in some spots, but our high temperature will be just around 55 degrees, so much warmer than what we were talking about just a couple weeks ago. As we head into the later half of the week, some showers to start on Thursday, but some clearing throughout the day with a high around 48 degrees. And as we head into Friday, about partly cloudy skies, 50-50 in the skies with our cloud cover, and our temperatures waning back towards our average of around 42 degrees. So it's looking to be a beautiful week on the bookends, but we do have that heavy rain to contend with. And again, it could be a very potent system with upwards of an inch of rainfall coming with this Wednesday system, one to watch and be weather aware of for sure. Up next, we have our Weather Whiz Quiz answer to our Weather Whiz Quiz question.
Wow, it's been 15 years since we've seen meteorological winter have below average temperatures, and it's looking like we're going to be shaping up to experience that yet again this year, alongside some below average precipitation accumulation as well. Filippo, care to explain why?
Absolutely, Luke. It's interesting to note that we saw below average snowfall this year and last year, but we got there two different ways. This year, it was a lack of moisture and precipitation, but we had the cold air in place. Last year, we had plenty of precipitation, but we didn't have that cold air. So just goes to show that winters can be unpredictable.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Filippo. We really appreciate that. Make sure to tune in next week for another episode of Whether or Not.